Hello, and welcome to Have At Us, Reviews for Your Pleasure. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Nietzsche.
This is episode 15, Youthful Innocence. Today we are reviewing Kaguya-sama, Love is War, Seasons 1 and 2. So hit me. What's your general impression?
We're definitely spoiling the first two seasons of this. It's happening, and I don't know that there's much to spoil, because it's so formulaic. And so, I feel like you watch the first two episodes, you know what the rest of this is going to be. Not very interesting after that. I thought I was going to like this a lot more. The first, probably 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, this is pretty good. This is funny. I'm liking this. And then it just started to kind of grate. It was just kind of like, this isn't as good. And by the end, before we even got to season 2, I was kind of like, if I was watching this by myself, would have given up. I just said, not worth it.
Fair enough. I don't disagree. I do think the show is formulaic, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty well done for the most part. It's a pretty decent adaptation of its source material, the manga. I think its saving grace is that I think it has a pretty strong cast of characters who can be a little cookie cutter. I think they're basically always the same. But I don't think they're bad in that their interactions with each other are pretty good. I think that's where the show shines, is that you can mix and match all the characters, and their interactions, I think, work in any what way.
Work and entertainable are different things. They work, but I wasn't entertained with their interactions most of the time. The characters not being good, good enough, I guess, to carry the show, is what kills it. I just don't feel like they... so Kaguya... And what's his name? Shirogane? They're fine at the start. I like them both at the start. And then it just drags on for forever. And we're still dragging it on. We got at the end of season 2 and we're still just dragging their relationship behind us. When are we going to get somewhere with this? But then at some point they suddenly just get nicer to each other. I feel like we thought there was a transition to that, but there really wasn't. They just suddenly were nice to each other. And it's just not very believable. They just had a whole character shift that I feel like was not very believable. It'd be fine if they were in a relationship. I'd forgive that. But they're not. They're just sitting there, being jerks. Not really being jerks, they're just too nice. They become way too nice. There's no more cattle in human form comments. Right? That is my favorite comment.
Cattle in human form. That's a good insult.
Yeah, I legit am waiting for the moment to be able to use this phrase.
Oh, you got that saved in the bank.
Yeah, I'm I am just waiting for a moment to be able to use the phrase cattle in human form. Because it's so funny to me. It's so mean and cruel.
That's pretty good. I don't know that I, tuck away insults and then pull them out when I need them. I don't really do that. I keep it basic.
You're probably just cursing at people like a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I keep it basic. I don't need to come up with some elaborate insult. What's the point?
Because there's the game where you're insulting each other playfully, right? The playful banter thing. And you gotta be able to one-up someone sometimes.
I don't do that very often.
Oh, it's a good deal. I take a lot of joy when someone comes up with an insult that I just don't have any response to. I'm like, man, you got me. That was good.
All my insults towards you, they're the same every time.
They're basically, just racism or body shaming.
Yeah, I mean, you skinny bastards.
Mm-hmm. That hurts my feelings. I'm gonna cry.
It's about time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the only time I was actively engaged was at the end of season 2, though.
End of season 2.
Where you get Ishigami's backstory.
Yeah.
Thing. I was engaged, and then the ending ruined the whole thing of it. I was just I don't even care. This episode feels like it was a waste of time now. I feel like that payoff wasn't even worth it. Because he's over there, and he did the right thing, and got real screwed over. And then he refused to apologize, and I respected that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, buddy. I feel like you should have just exposed this kid. But you didn't. That's fine. But then, I feel like there should have been a resolution between him and whatever her name is. Girl he really liked.
Yeah. Irrelevant person.
She had a purple bow, I think. That's how I distinguished her.
That's pretty good.
Purple bow girl. Really, I like the color purple. Anyway, But there wasn't. She just comes along, she's still bitter, and that's fine. She can be bitter. But then he's just a jerk back to her. Like, really mean. For no reason. He could have just been a nice person. Or they could have explained the situation to her. Mm-hmm. Nope. There was no resolution there. I don't need them to, like, make up and be a couple. Nah, didn't need that.
I see.
Because I feel like he's slated for whatever her name is, Ino.
Oh. Well, I think that is a very anime moment, and where it's like this really elaborate backstory of like tragedy, and it doesn't feel very realistic. Like, even if you had a good reason, you still punch the crap out of somebody. I don't imagine a school's gonna let you just carry on for a few months and then graduate and move on in the same schooling system. It just seems really unrealistic to me, and it's just overly dramatic. But it's kind of what you expect out of anime, so it's not like I'm really bothered by it. But it kind of stands out in the show because I don't feel like the show spends a lot of time going over the backstories of all these other characters. For the most part, like, you have some idea, like, okay, this girl from a really rich family, this guy from a poor family, sure. But like, it's never like super elaborate. You don't spend like a whole episode going over other people's backstory. So it stands out a lot.
I mean, it does stand out because it's a real tonal shift. And I like that. Like, it was engaging. I was like, okay, that's cool. And it just doesn't end well. Right? I just felt like the ending was not a payoff. It was just a cop-out. Like, you could have just done it. Could have had his growth moment, which he didn't really have. He didn't really change after that.
No.
Now, it's pretty close to the end, so I'll forgive that. But, like, if season 3 comes out, and we watch that and review that, then I'm gonna need him to have grown from that event. That
makes sense. I have currently read almost every chapter, and this is not super far in the series. So, I will keep my mouth shut, but it's an understandable expectation. But I feel like Ishigami is a pretty solid character. It takes a few episodes in the first season for him to kind of come in.
It's like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It's like half the first season.
It takes a little while, but I think the idea was to set the ground for the main relationship and then kind of build upon that, and then you start adding in more elements. It's pretty standard stuff, I feel like. But I think Ishigami, he's a good character to interact with Kaguya, and that he kind of brings out, or he perceives her more like sinister side a lot. And you get some really good interactions there. And then you see his like more like reverent side with Shirogane, and that he really respects this guy. And so he has this weird relationship with the council, and then of course Fujiwara, who he kind of looks down upon, which I think is pretty funny too. So but again, I just think all the characters interact pretty well, and I think that he's a good example of he has good interactions with all three of them. And later on, when Ino comes in, I think he has good interactions with her, though it's pretty basic in that they're just arguing all the time. You get a little bit more, I guess, in the flashback, but for the most part, they're always going at each other. But I think he's a good example of somebody who can go with anybody in the cast and have funny interactions with, and he can show different sides of his character with them.
I feel like he doesn't have very funny interactions with Shirogane, right? He's just kind of like his friend. He's like his bro over there. And that's fine. He needs a friend. They both need a friend, really. But I don't think they're very funny together. Like, sometimes Ishigami is like the straw man funny. And that's fine. That works. But not often enough. Him and Kaguya are good. Right? Ishigami and her are funny. But then that dies out when she stops being as mean. Right? The best scene is her coming up after they're in the drama department doing their thing. And she's all covered in blood, and they've got this whole thing going on. And she just, like, gives him a real threat, though. That's hilarious. Right? That's funny. Not generally funny after that, though. Because then they're too nice to each other. Right? Everybody is kind of just becomes too friendly. Like, woo, oh yeah, we're good friends. I'm like, I don't care about your friendship. I want either these two people to be in a relationship, or I want you guys to all be at odds. Like, I want something to be attached to.
I do actually think a premise with these characters where they're all against each other could be pretty funny, but that's obviously not what they're going for. It's clearly meant to be a group of friends, which is, it's fine. It's not bad. But I do think I like kind of some of the more darker sides of the characters that you see at the beginning. And I agree that they start to kind of die out pretty quickly. And I do think that's a bit of a loss. I mean, sometimes you see it with Kaguya, like with the principal or something at the end of season 2. Like, clearly, she still has her side where she can be kind of manipulative or look down upon somebody. But there's less of her being directly sinister to them. Except for, like, in the student council election, where she is. But it's not very frequent.
Yeah, but it all devolves to, like, her, being like, oh, I just want him to, say something nice. Or someone makes some comment about them being a couple. And then it's all gone. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the gag.
And it gets old very quickly. Either you make them a couple, or you stop playing this game, right? Find a new gag. You find something else. Anything else, really. But you don't. They're just all super nice and friendly and buddy-buddy, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't need you to all be friends. You all magically have become friends rather quickly, it seems. Like, after we start being nice, it's just like, boom, it just accelerates exponentially.
Well, maybe that's reflective on the human condition.
That's not true. Most people are not fast friends like that.
That's true.
It happens.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it doesn't happen. Like, fast friends happen, but to get to, like, the level that they're at, it's just not, it's not the same. It's not believable, right? But they're also not entertaining enough, generally, for me to care, right? The conflict of them, like, playing games together and stuff, that is pretty good. Right, because they all want to win and like stuff, and that's good.
I actually really like the scenes where they're actually playing actual games, just because they either overthink it or overanalyze it, or they underdo it, or there's always somebody planning something, unless you're Fujiwara, who's just chaos in this environment, and she always has to throw in some weird stuff, like when they're doing the game where you have to you don't want to say the name that you have above your head, but you don't know what it is, or not the name, but the word. Mm-hmm. And then she just starts doing her rap kind of thing.
The rap thing is really funny.
It's pretty funny.
Her little rap at the end of one of those episodes or whatever, that was really funny.
Yeah, I found that game to be very funny. I'm trying to think which games were actually in the anime and not.
They played the match game, where she was trying to cheat, and then she basically did cheat and gave him the victory. And then there was the blow up the balloon game, which is right at the very end.
Yeah, I don't like that as an ending episode bit. Like, you had the earlier part of the episode, which was at least reflective of Kaguya's character, and I feel like would have been a fine note to end on it by itself. But then to go into the balloon game was very weird. But I also understand that this is an adaptation of something that goes on for much longer, so you have to pick something. So it is what it is. But in general, I think her games are really funny. But I think it just kind of shows the sadistic side of her. I think she's actually a very sadistic person and really enjoys causing conflict among the people. And she just relishes in it.
I think she's just competitive, right? I don't think that she relishes in causing conflict. I think she is just competitive, right? Because you don't see it in anything else. The other game they also play, by the way, is the game that her board club game made, where the marriage thing,
the game of life, basically.
Yeah, but it's not quite as bad as the game of life.
I mean, I feel like it was basically the same thing, except the board isn't the same.
I mean, some of those punishments and reward things were a little ridiculous.
I like the part that's funny about that though is that she gets really into it, and she's like, "Oh my god, we've had 9 kids or whatever it was," and she leans into it and does this role play with it all. I do think that's pretty funny.
It is funny. That's what I'm saying. The conflict helps bring something here, right? I'm here because I want to see these people have conflicting relationships, or grow, or have some struggles. But I just feel like there's no struggle here. There's nothing I feel like we're going to obtain because I feel like it's going to be another 7 years before these people end up in a relationship. That's too long. It's not pleasant. The other thing that kills it is the narration. I just want their thoughts. Let them say their thoughts, do their thing. I don't need some weird person narrating this. It's a bad formula.
I think narration in the written form works a lot better than having some baseless voice saying a bunch of things in the episodes. I agree that that's not a strong component of the show. The show tries to dramatize some scenes. So, like, in the second season, there's that moment where Kaguya and Shirogane are in the room...
The sports room?
No, the main room.
The student council room?
Yeah, student council room. And that was after she, like, had figured out her, like, calm down technique.
Mm-hmm.
And it does that, like, video game fight scenario look. That is an anime adaptation device put into the episode. And I don't think it works particularly well there. Brings to life some components of the episodes that were a little bit more bland in the manga. So, like, at the speeches given for the student council elections, it kind of does a couple shots where it's going through the crowd and you can kind of see up onto the podium while doing that. It kind of adds some dynamic shots in there that I think are actually pretty good. So, you know, it's a little bit of a give and take. It's a hit and miss game.
I can see that, I guess, but I didn't hate the fight scene thing, but I was already checked out. I was going to like, oh, look, this is at least different. But that's about it. Like, I knew the hand thing was going to become a problem at some point, and I was like, okay, great. Woo. There's just no real entertainment there. Like, I don't care about them anymore. I don't care if they end up together. They will end up together. But I don't care. I'm not invested in their relationship at this point. It would have just been better if they were already a couple and they were growing through this. That would have been much more entertaining. Much more invested in that.
I think that would be pretty good, too. Unfortunately, with things like this, it's a case where things get dragged out or drawn out for way too long. And I often feel like, especially with like sitcom kind of anime, you can generally probably cut down quite a bit of it and get a much more succinct story if you're going for like a romance or something. But, you know, you gotta throw in these weird episodes that drag things out forever and then add weird conflicts that come out of nowhere. You know, it's part of the territory.
Yeah, but it's not funny. Like, it stops being funny because there's nothing to really be invested in. Like, there's like, oh, haha, that was funny sometimes in episodes. But I don't know that anything in, like, the last, like, probably 5 or 6 episodes was really that funny.
I do think the comedy does kind of take a back seat for a little while there towards the end. Especially with Ishigami's story, like, that takes that serious turn, and the comedy kind of takes that back seat for a while. And even before that, like the sports festival, the only real sense of comedy you kind of get from that is, like, Kaguya interacting with Shirogane's dad, which I think is funny, but it's also kind of predictable. You see it coming. But I still think it's pretty funny.
I did not think that was funny in any sense. I was like, okay, can we just move on? Could have been funnier if we just ran the whole bit of, like, him doing extravagant, ridiculous things to keep her away from him. Right? If we'd let that bit run on too long, that could have been funnier. But we didn't. We said once, done, you suck.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it worked with how it is. But I think the show should have focused more on the comedy, and I think it lets it get by a little too much.
They need to focus on something. That's what it needed to do. It just kind of wanders after a little bit. It just kind of does its thing where it's just like situation.
Yeah.
It's not even like situations that necessarily have a purpose anymore at some point.
That's why I use the term sitcom, because it's very sitcom-y in that sense.
I mean, I agree. It has, very much a sitcom element to it. But you could tell a decent story in a sitcom. We did Parks. Parks had a decent story.
It's true.
It tells a story. I don't know how common that is in other sitcoms, but they could have done this. Because there's already a base for you to have a story. The relationships. It's not even that hard. I don't know. I definitely checked out, like, episode probably 4 or 5. After that, I was kind of like, I don't know about this anymore. It's just not very funny. It's predictable. You guys are going to do some ridiculous thing to get out of this. And then after you get, like, the fireworks festival nonsense, where they're basically, like, told each other they want to be a couple. But that's not good enough because it wasn't, like, specifically... Okay. I don't understand. Kind of grown over that. He's like, okay, this is kind of stupid. But my good friend, what's her name here? Maid girl. Starts with an H, and I always... Hayasaka?
Hayasaka, yeah.
Yeah. She makes comments like that, and she's kind of done with their crap. And I respect that.
She's a great character, actually, I think.
She's the best character. Easily. Easily the best character.
She's certainly the most grounded. Not in, like, believability, but in personality.
No, I believe it. I believe that she's just a maid, and she's really close, and she's, Kaguya's friend. And she needs a friend. She needs a good friend like that. And I respect that. Now, I don't believe that she doesn't just, murder her with the bath scene thing, though. I was like, nah, this woman definitely murders you. Yeah, she's got the side ponytail.
She does.
I like the side ponytail thing.
And her, like, scrunchie or whatever the hell it is, like, lights up when Kaguya's in danger.
Look, she comes to her aid often. And I respect that. I appreciate it. She keeps the secret well. She kind of feels like she's, like, some, like, trained assassin girl over here a little bit.
Yeah.
But not quite. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
You win. You are the best.
She feels like somebody who would get her hands dirty if she needed to.
She does get her hands dirty. She goes out and, gets information and stuff. And
yeah, well, I'm talking more like, blood.
She'd murder someone.
Yeah.
She'd definitely murder someone if they were a threat to the Shirogane household. Or no, what is her last name?
Shinomiya?
Shinomiya? Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, the Shinomiya household. She'd murder some people for them. Maybe she has. Except this is too lighthearted to have a murder scene in it, I feel like. But that's okay.
We need a good murder scene.
I mean, it could have been. Right? That's fine with me. But yeah, she's great.
Hayasaka is a really fun character. I really like the scene where she, like, dresses up in, like, the school outfit and then talks to Shirogane because Kaguya's all saying, oh, you couldn't do it. You couldn't, like, make him confess or whatever in a day. And then she's just playing up this game and really shows, like, she's pretty good at understanding people and how to, like, get to them. She's very clever and smart, and she's a little vindictive.
I respected that she was good at it. I didn't really think that was a necessary deal, though. Like, I feel like that was a nonsense deal that we're never going to do anything with. And it's just kind of stupid, right? But her ability to act that out, top notch, right?
It's pretty funny.
She is a flirtatious woman, and you can tell, and it's good, and she picks all the right things, and
pretends to be asleep for 3 hours.
Well, I just like that she, like, I saved up all my money, and, like, clearly knew he was going to respect the hard work game, right?
She knew her target.
Yeah, and I respected her ability to do that. I just felt like the whole thing was kind of a waste of time, though. And it wasn't really funny. You just kind of feel bad because this girl is, like, good. Like, I knew it was going to go good for her. Well, it's because I didn't think she was going to get a confession, but, like...
Oh, I thought it was funny.
No, it's too mean. Like, it's far too mean to do to your, mistress over here who's, like, that she really wants this kid, and I feel like she was just being mean. But she's kind of just grounded and mean normally, so her being excessively mean wasn't really funny. I had nothing to hold on to, because I 100% did not believe that he was gonna like her enough to confess to her.
I don't think you're supposed to believe it.
And then she gets dejected at the end, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, this is not even fair.
I actually think that's a pretty good moment of making you feel a little bad for her.
I don't feel bad for her. She knowingly went into this, being a jerk. No, I wasn't super into that one. But basically every other interaction, pretty great with her.
Okay.
Well, except for where she forces on the sick day thing. She, like, forces them in together, and I'm like, that is real deceptive and mean. Because she causes all this conflict over it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, woman.
Yeah, she's got a darker side to her. Willing to do what she feels like she has to do.
I mean, that could have ended really bad, though. Like, that could have ended, like, tragically awful.
But it didn't.
It didn't.
That's all that matters. Results.
But it could have. That wasn't a result. She didn't win anything out of that.
That's true. I mean, she wanted to, but...
Yeah, that was... Yeah. She's the best. That's the important point here. She's the best.
Okay. Well, what did you think of Fujiwara?
She's fine. Like, sometimes she's okay, and sometimes you're just like, I don't understand. Your use as, like, a stopping block for things needed to stop.
I actually like that.
No, she just blocks everything unintentionally, and it's really stupid. Like, if what happens once or twice, okay. But, like, every time when you're just ready for these people to be in a relationship or move on or do something, it gets old real fast.
I like her element in the show of being just this force where you don't really know what's going to come from her. Could be good, could be bad. Sometimes he inadvertently helps, sometimes helps to destroy. I actually think her dynamic is really good and actually pretty essential to what the show has going on. I like her character quite a bit. I don't know that she's my favorite. But I don't know who I'd pick as a favorite, if I'm being honest.
There's only one clear answer, and we just discussed it, so...
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad answer, but I feel like anybody of the main cast you could say, and I don't know that it'd be a bad answer.
It would be. Any of these main 4 kids? Bad answer.
Bad answer.
None of them are good enough to be the best character.
Well, who's the worst one?
Who's the worst one? See, I don't really know here. It's probably one of the main 2. Because I just don't care about their nonsense. I just had stopped caring. But there's, like, massive problems on both sides of that. Like, she's, you know, super cool and rich and wonderful. But she has a flip phone. Like, that was so unbelievable. There was never really a point where we, like, went over her reasons for that. And all this stuff. And then, like, it was like, okay, I don't really care. But then she, like, you know... uses her resources and her people to, like, sabotage a student council election. Right? She only uses her cool status sometimes. Right? And I don't understand.
Well, she wants to live, like, a normal life as much as she can.
Kind of. Only kind of. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte let go of that power, right?
No, I just feel like she seems like a different character in, like, every episode, kind of. Like, this is the side we're going to show to her today. Okay, great.
I don't know that I'd go that far.
Like, I guess especially at the end, she's just kind of, she has changed into, like, you know, head over heels girl. And that's just like, okay, great, I guess.
It's not as entertaining as being, calling people cattle in human form.
She was just so mean. And then she just stopped being mean. Right? Or she's, like, mean to the doctor, but that's more like, I'm head over heels girl. And that's not funny anymore. That's just you being an idiot.
The funniest part of that is Hayasaka being just totally embarrassed.
I wasn't clear why she was embarrassed. I just wasn't understanding.
Because it's such a nonsense reason to go to a hospital. I'd be embarrassed to be with somebody if that was the diagnosis. Oh, you just collapsed because, you were in love, heart-struck. I'd be pretty embarrassed to be part of that.
No, why do I have to be embarrassed? I am doing my job. I am the maid. I'm here doing my thing.
Oh, no,
Why am I embarrassed?
I relate to her.
No.
It's like association.
Guess, but then the other side, Shirogane is just not really enjoyable. Basically, at any point. Like, maybe he's the worst. He's not generally very funny or entertaining. I don't know, I'm trying to think through of any scene where I'm like, oh yeah, you were funny there. It's not happening.
I think... the funniest stuff with him is probably him and Fujiwara, where he's just completely incompetent at his skills, and then she trains him and raises him to proper form. I think those are pretty funny.
Those are stupid. They weren't funny the first time. And then there's 2 more of them, and I'm sure they continue. I'm sure there's more of them. Because why not? We're the Japanese people, and we found something that could have been funny once. So it is funny for ad infinitum. It will always be funny.
That is kind of the trappings that Japanese media, that I consume at least, tends to get into.
And it's just so apparent, and it's so like, okay. Like the moment he was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. I was like, yeah, you are. Don't worry. You're doing it again.
Doing what?
Training this kid again.
Oh, you said he, and that would be a she.
I didn't say he.
I heard he.
Well, maybe you should listen better. Clean your ears out.
In Japan, they do some weird cleaning ear rituals.
I mean, I clean my ears, every 2 or 3 days. So.
That's because you're Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
100%.
It's ingrained in your bones.
We had our ears cleaned as kids. Oh, yeah. That was a thing.
Yeah, that was not part of my life.
Yeah, it's a normal thing. I think it's weird that other people did not grow up getting their ears cleaned.
I just think it's weird that Asian people have a different earwax build than, like, Western people.
It's because Western people suck. Yeah, but anyway, back on track. I don't know where we were.
Talking about characters.
Hey, which
dislike.
character? Which characters?
Shirogane.
Yeah, he sucks. Him and Fujiwara are sometimes funny, but that's really more she is funny, and he is there, providing the situation.
Yeah, I think he's the object that causes humor, less than him being inherently funny.
Yeah, but he's just, I don't know. He just seems ridiculous and unpleasant.
I mean, they're all ridiculous.
And I just don't care. He seems kind of like he's the straight man, except Ishigami is the straight man. And so then he just feels like he has no purpose.
I feel that... I don't know that he's really supposed to be the straight man.
I mean, he's not, but he feels like it. Like, he just feels like he has no personality and he's just there as a catalyst.
Yeah, I mean, he feels a lot more like a catalyst than anything, which I think is fine. And clearly, the main dynamic with him is over Kaguya more than anything. And so, a lot of it hinges on how you feel about his relationship with her.
Boring, because it won't go anywhere.
I think it nosedives a couple times. And I think it starts off pretty strong, kind of dips a little bit. I think it comes back, and then I think you're kind of stuck in a place where it's not really going anywhere. And I think the seasons are probably a little too short, actually. But, I mean, the show has found a lot of success, and, it's getting a third season. And for a show like that, that's pretty good. But it also shows that they started off only with 12 episodes, a single core, which is not super strong. If season 1 and 2 had been just the first season, and then, season 2 was another 24 episodes, I think that would be a lot stronger.
Be cruel and unusual punishment is what that would be. Nobody wants to sit there for that long. Mm-mm.
I mean, this is a pretty well-liked show.
I know. And the clips I had seen left me with positive expectations. I thought I was going to enjoy this. And I did enjoy the first little bit, and then I just stopped enjoying it. I just didn't. I couldn't bring myself to care about any of these people. At all. At any point. Really. I don't know.
In general, I don't know. I enjoy most of the characters. I think they're a good cast. But I think it hinges on the interactions with each other. As individuals, they're not that interesting. They're pretty boring. But I think they have good interactions.
It's because they lose individuality to the cohesive friendship thing.
They do, yeah.
Right, and that's boring. Right, the only person who kind of retains some individuality is Ishigami. Because he's still over there playing his games, doing his thing. That makes sense. And there's the weird scene where him and Shirogane are playing together, doing the cart thing. And I was like, I've never seen this kid play anything. And for a studious, serious kid, that seems really weird that they're just abusing their power.
Well, yeah, but the whole setup was that you can't get mad for a whole hour, So we're going to do things that try to piss you off. It all makes sense in that context.
Yeah, the situation makes sense, but them as characters do not make sense there. Right? Like, Ishigami makes sense. He's doing his thing. He doesn't even care, right? He never cares. He kind of somehow has to care at some point. I don't know. I don't know how he, makes it through very well. But he survived. Kaguya helps him out.
Yeah, it was some pretty creepy stuff.
Hey, look, that was pretty funny. That was a good, funny moment.
Yeah, it is funny.
But not really at any other point. She also sticks up for him in that scene afterwards while they're studying. And the girls in the library kind of being mean. And And she's like, oh, you got anything to say? And she's like, oh. And they're like, nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
we're good.
That's a nice scene.
Well, I respected that. That was a good scene. That's probably one of the last few good scenes, right? Is them having their interactions. This is probably the last few things that were funny and good. But there were very few things that were actually funny and entertaining after that.
I think season 2 is less funny than season 1, for sure. But I just feel like they focus on other things in season 2, whereas season 1 seems focused on the humor of the situations, for the most part. Season 2 is creating more events, and then putting these characters into those events. And so you naturally have to focus a bit on the drama of the event, and not on the humor for a while. And I think that kind of slows down the humor.
Yeah, but the drama's not even entertaining.
Well,
This is the problem, right? You can't switch focus and then fail.
Well, I agree. I think, like, there being an election, that's fine. It's what, a 2-episode arc?
I don't know. The resolve to that was also really stupid. She got me sticking his neck out and trying to be a nice person, and I'm like, why do you care about this girl? Because she's your future lover, and we all know that, I guess. Right. I don't know. I just wasn't interested. I wasn't really interested in much of what was happening. Like, the events were not that entertaining. Like, the fireworks thing was like, okay. That felt too movie-esque. It's so ridiculous.
It does feel very Hollywood. Like, whoa, there's this crazy thing, and we gotta get our friends here, and we'll gather up and... Yeah, no, it's a little overdone. A little overcooked.
Yeah. It's also like, well, her family will be overprotective now, because it's convenient to create some nonsense conflict.
Well, yeah, I mean, the nature of a show like this isn't to be, like, super consistent with the odd plot devices. It's more about using them when it's convenient for the author or writer to cause a funny scenario or conflict or whatever else. I'm not going to be harsh on the show too much for, like, not being super big sticklers on details like that. I just don't think it's what's important.
What's important is do something good and entertaining. That's what's important, and you failed. Really quickly. So then you need to deliver somewhere, and I'm a detail-oriented person. You didn't deliver there. I don't know what people feel like they're getting a delivery on with this show. Like, I don't understand what people are like, right? You comment on it. You tell me what saves this show. Why are you wrong and I am right? That's what I need to hear. But yeah, you got any defense of this?
Of the show?
Yeah.
I think when it's funny, it's funny. I just think it loses its momentum for a little while every now and then. But I think it's generally a funny show.
What is the funniest or like a top funny moment out of these 2 seasons?
Funniest.
Or just like, you know, when I think of what's a really funny scene, that's like the first one there or something. You know, it doesn't have to be like, I pinpointed and calculated this is the funniest scene.
It's early on. I think the stuff where Kaguya is unaware of anything sexual, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty funny.
Oh, man. So, the lines up to her figuring out what, you know, going all the way or whatever the term is.
Your first time.
Your first time, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you probably do it with your sister all the time, right? And then they're like, what? I think that's pretty funny.
That whole deal is funny. Afterwards is not nearly as funny. And then her laughing over, like, the word penis or whatever.
Wiener.
Wiener, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be too direct about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but her laughing over wiener, I was like, oh my. That is so stupid.
I think it's funny, but not because I think that the joke itself is funny. It's funny that C finds it funny.
No, it makes no sense. I never remember thinking the word wiener was that funny.
I mean, when I was a child, I don't know. I don't remember that word being that funny either.
So I just don't get it. But yeah, her like, you know, making all the worst comments. Like incest comments, and I recorded it with my cousin.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
That is some pretty good level of humor there, right? We went really far in everybody else's opinion. And she just is innocently not aware.
That's pretty funny.
That's funny. I'll give you that's pretty funny. But then, yeah, when we use it later, it's not funny.
I still think it's funny there.
I respect that she consistently has to be explained things.
Yeah.
Right.
What's a man whore?
That is... I don't understand how you wouldn't... Do you not know what the word whore means?
Maybe not.
How does she not... I just don't understand how she doesn't know these things. Right? Like, she doesn't seem like she's exceptionally safeguarded.
Yeah, I mean, it's more that you're told that she is than it seems that she is.
It becomes unbelievable. I can understand how you could be pretty innocent and get to the point where you you don't understand what your first time means. I can understand that one.
I
After
guess.
that, I struggle to understand most of it. Like, she doesn't laugh when, Fujiwara's explaining it to her. And I'm like, I don't know. You had to use something at some point. You had to use some word.
Yeah, but that's her learning. She hasn't found it funny yet. That's the idea.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like she'd have to have basic anatomy at some point. Like, I don't know.
Well, I'm sure she knows what anatomy is, but it was the idea that she was just taught a very limited idea of what, sex is.
Yeah, a ridiculously limited deal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's that believable. But that's a case where I just think it's funny regardless.
Just that specific point is funny. But the rest of it's not very funny. I don't know. But their sexual humor is generally not funny. Like the panties thing. The black panties.
Yeah, I think that's pretty funny.
No, what's good about it is how it gets used later with Ino. As she is like, she's just walked into the worst situations possible.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
Yeah, I think that's funny.
I don't know why you go back to that room. Realistically. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna find next time I walk into that room.
True.
It's a trip. Every time. But she goes back, but her, justification that, like, Kaguya is like a dominatrix woman thing. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Her colorful imagination was pretty funny there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Nothing else about their, like, sexual humor there with, like, the panties thing was funny. Man-whore. Man-whore is not a funny word.
Well, I agree.
It's not even, like, a shock value term.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not.
I could walk in and call one of my coworkers a man-whore, and I feel like they would be a little surprised that I said that, and we would move on.
Would they agree, though?
No, because none of them are really man-whores.
Oh, that's too bad.
One day they're gonna, like, find out that I talk about them on this podcast, and they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Gonna be good.
I look forward to it.
But yeah, and any other really funny scenes?
I like all the games.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the balloon popping.
I didn't understand that was a sexual joke at all.
Oh, with her comments?
Yeah, I was not getting it. I don't understand how that was supposed to communicate sexual.
Well, I don't
Anything.
remember the exact phrase, but right, it's the whole, you're pumping it until it releases. It's the idea of, like, you're holding on to a climax and to see who releases first.
I want you to tell me that people do that in real life.
As
Like-
a game?
Like, people sit there in a mixed group, and they're like, you know what?
Let's see who can last
Are
the
you
longest.
bored? Are you bored? Let's do it. Let's just, you could just have sex. Probably more entertaining.
Yeah.
No competition.
Not as
to
good
it.
of a story, though.
But I'm not in this for the story. I am in this for the gratification of it at this point. Right? If I'm getting off regardless, you might as well just get off in a more pleasurable fashion.
I suppose.
Right? I don't understand I didn't understand how anyone would have agreed to that. Like, these men feel confident enough, even though they're, like, pretty loner-esque people and pretty shy and don't have any real experiences over here. But they are very much okay with going ahead with, like, fapping in front of these women.
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's just I don't think they would ever actually do it. I just think it's the attraction of the idea. And I don't think it's that they think they would be masturbating. It would be that the women were doing it to them.
Is that what they thought?
Yeah.
There's 3 women.
Yeah.
2 penises.
Yeah, but the game is that you have to take turns going until, the release. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like a believable misunderstanding. But less believable still. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like Shirogane, lets anyone else touch his penis, but Kaguya, so...
Yeah, but as long as he's getting that, good enough.
I guess. I don't know. But that whole thing, I was like, okay, I guess. That game was mildly humorous in, like, how mean they were to Ino, though. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you got this, keep going, yeah!
You peer pressure her into that.
It was pretty funny.
But I don't know how it ends, so, it blows up.
Yeah, that was a big balloon. That would probably be unpleasant to be around, actually.
Probably caused permanent ear damage, but it's a good thing they're in the anime world.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, no other grand humor points you got?
That hasn't been discussed?
Yeah.
I'd have to go through my thoughts. Oh!
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Fujiwara's younger sister, when she's talking to Kaguya about, like, she's so innocent, doesn't it just make you want to, like, lock her up in a dungeon forever? Stuff like that.
Oh, from the shopping trip.
Yeah.
With
think
Kay.
Yeah, that was pretty
too.
funny.
I mean, it's mildly humorous. It was like, you're kind of creepy.
Yeah,
And
sure.
you're supposed to be, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It was a fine direction to go. But we never really returned there. We just kind of dropped that girl. We don't care about her anymore. Kay still appears, but I feel like her interactions are never really funny or good. She's kind of the pretty-looking girl, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, she's pretty underutilized at this point.
I mean, I feel like she will become a bigger character, but I don't care. Right? I just don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing really that's great about it, and I feel like the longer it goes on, the less I liked it. It just plummeted.
I kind of figured that might happen.
That's what you figured would happen, huh?
Well, because I had not seen season 2, but I'd read it before. But season 1, I figured the first couple episodes would be the strongest part for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, after that...
We need an anime that doesn't start strong, but ends up being okay. Because I feel like everything has been like Kaguya-sama has a nice strong start, and then it fails miserably, pretty pathetically, like way worse than this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you agree, so that's good.
I don't agree.
But yeah, we got Neon Genesis in there. That sucks all the way through, basically. So, and then I guess Full Metal Alchemist, Brig section.
Yeah.
It's pretty late. That is pretty good. It also doesn't end on a high note, though. I don't know. We need an anime that's grand and wonderful that I really enjoy.
Well,
that's what we need.
That's why we need suggestions.
Yeah.
What will this person love all the way through?
This person, I've just become not even worthy of a name.
This Asian guy.
I hope that's how they put the suggestions there. They're like, for some Asian man.
That'd be pretty funny.
You need to watch. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. I don't have anything really positive or negative else to say about this.
I feel like it's a show where it's good enough to not really warrant too much criticism, and it's not...
Bad enough?
Yeah. It's not bad enough to sit here and, like, attack.
Oh, I feel like I've done a lot of attacking on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, but even then I don't feel like it's super terrible. You're not over here, like, with Neon Genesis, just acting like your life was in misery.
I mean, I was pretty bored at the latter half of that. And then we had the streaming problems where it just didn't want to go. And I was just like, please, please, for the love of God, just work. Because I just want to be freed from this. Please.
That was pretty frustrating.
I'm blaming you for that, so...
What do you want me to do?
Be better!
Why don't you go and make a better app that we can stream on?
I feel like Funimation's app is kind of garbage in how it's designed. Not that it's super relevant to this discussion, but there's no, like, skip intro or, like, endings or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not great.
Which I guess is a good segue for us. Your thoughts on the... We'll start with the endings. We're going to start there.
The endings?
Mm-hmm.
They're fine. They're boring. They're nothing great. Nothing to write home about. But they're not offensive.
No, I kind of liked them. Like, they weren't great. But I was like, these are okay. It's pretty decent.
Okay. I just felt like they're really generic and not much is happening. It's kind of boring.
I mean, they're pretty generic. That's fair. But they weren't bad.
No, I mean, they're well animated. I guess there's the one ending that people really like where Fujiwara does her dance.
The rap thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, we discussed that. That was really funny. It's just kind of a deal where I feel like the Japanese, like, female rap thing, when I hear it in, like, animes and stuff, it's pretty good. But, like, American rap, it's not the same thing at all in any
They're
fashion.
pretty different, yeah.
And I kind of hate on it a lot. But that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, that's the best of your, like, 3 options. But even then, I was never a huge fan of that, to be honest. It feels like the movement, it looks like 3D CG, and I hate the movement of it.
It doesn't look like that to me. But you're wrong. As always. That's fine. How about the openings? Let's hear it.
I don't really like them.
You don't like the openings, huh?
I don't think the music's bad, per se, but I think the visuals are kind of boring. And I think it overdoes the whole, especially the first one where it's like, these people are actually going to war and they have all these weapons and whatnot. If that was actually done in some way, it would work, but it's not. It's just, I don't know. I don't really care for him a whole lot.
I liked him. I liked the music. I thought the music was really entertaining. The animation in the first one does get annoying on the, like, repeated scene where they, like, play it back. It's like a 2-second loop that goes over, like, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time, it's fine. But then it happens, like, 3 more times. You're like, stop. Stop this. But the song is good. The second one is a fine opening, but the visuals are only entertaining with the arrow. Right? She fires the arrow, and I like that it, goes through and everybody sees it and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hits him. Well, it hits his shield, his heart shield.
Yeah. I would, when I get a shield, that's what it's going to be.
Well, that's a shield specifically for his heart. That's why it's shaped like his heart.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Because his heart definitely looks like that. And that's fine. The animation of that looks good and is interesting. And then after that, I don't care. I don't know why they're doing this weird investigation thing and making the rolled omelet thing. Okay.
Well, she's trying to get him to eat her food. Fastest way to a man is his stomach.
Is that true? I feel like a lot of people will say different.
I don't know. I mean, that's been an idea around for a long time, though.
It has. I don't know that providing me with food is the fastest way to my stomach.
That's because you don't like
Hurts
food.
my heart.
And you only eat bananas anyway, so...
But this is, again, shaming on my eating habits. 2 episodes in a row. For real. Body shaming. That's what this really is. This is you being jealous of my good eating habits and being 135 pounds. So you're a body shamer. That's rude. That's probably why you like this show.
That makes
more
a lot
than
of
I
sense.
do. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
Because they're all cattle. In human form.
Well, that's what I'm feeling like you might be at this point.
Me?
I'm feeling a little hurt.
I mean, I probably am. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I guess we should, move back on topic instead of just insulting each other. As much fun as it is to just insult people, as we've already learned in my world. What do you think about the voice acting in this?
It's serviceable. It's nothing special.
I agree. It's definitely not bad.
Yeah.
There's definitely no point where I'm like, oh, wow. Did you pull that person off the street?
Yeah, it works. I can't think of any bad moment of it. But there's no performance that makes me go, oh, wow, this person's really pulling in. Now, we did watch this in Japanese, so that should be said.
Because sub's the only way to watch things.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't really
that is God's truth.
I think it depends on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the dub for this is, though.
I feel like it'd be good.
I think it would probably be pretty bad.
I think the over dramatization of how these things go and play out,
yeah,
would just not fit well in English. I don't think we could pull that off to the same level. I'd have it be like passable and not just like grating.
I agree. I also just think it's partly that we don't really have anything like this that we would naturally hear, and so it would just feel weird no matter what, even if the performances were pretty good.
I mean, so their voice acting is great in comparison to a dub. That's what we've learned. Does this show even have a dub?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. If you watched it in dub, let us know how much you enjoy that. I mean, you are a sinner. Maybe you're probably not a cattle in human form yet.
Yeah.
Close to.
And you're a saint, so you know.
I am a saint and a righteous man.
Yeah.
So.
Both.
Well, a saint would have to be a righteous person, right? Anyway, you like the art style of this? How you feel about that?
I think it's good. I say it's good. There's aspects of it. In general, I think it's fine or good. The parts that I like is that I think they do pay actually some pretty decent detail with like Shirogane's eyes always being like got the sandbag effect going on. Sometimes like they'll like interact with the environment and they'll be consistent with it. I actually think they pay some pretty decent amount of detail to that, and I think that works pretty well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think the animation or the art style, right, is anything but serviceable. It's there. It does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm never wowed. I'm never impressed.
The setting is not really meant for anything crazy. You know, you're not going to get Yugi Moto's hair going anywhere.
That could be exciting.
Like, it would be pretty interesting.
It needs to be something interesting to look at.
But it's also not quite so chibi as some shows kind of want to be, or cutesy. It kind of takes that more realistic art style approach, which works for it.
Have you thought of anything else that you need to talk about or gush about or defend about this show?
Nope.
Nothing. You haven't seen that I think was really funny after I've thought about it
What's that?
early on with like Ishigami, where he's talking about their breast sizes for the archery thing, because he starts off really innocent about it, right?
Yeah.
He starts off in good territory,
Like realistic.
she'd be in the archery club because of her small breasts. It's a fine statement. You probably shouldn't have said it, but I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah.
And then he just nosedives. If he's in a plane, he just like
Yeah. He crashed it.
barrel into the ground. That's pretty funny though. Like I like that.
Okay. I couldn't tell you where that was even at. That's fairly early, I suppose.
It's pretty early. It's still while it's a good show.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not while it's a good show, but still passable, still enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a grand and pleasurable discussion.
It's always pleasurable.
Always. We hope that this brought you a small measure of pleasure. Just a small amount this time. Next episode, a great amount of pleasure. Feeling it.
We always try to go up with it.
It's really just you can't overload the people with pleasure, okay? So you gotta keep them tame here.
What kind of boring lifestyle are you trying to live?
The best lifestyle. The best one. All should imitate me in my saintliness. But we give them what they need. The pleasure you receive from this, that we're aiming to give you, is exactly what you need. Now, since this episode definitely brought you a small measure of pleasure, we're moving on. We were not even going to ask if it brought you pleasure. It did bring you a small measure of pleasure. You need to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Go to Twitter. Twitter's a good spot.
Twitter is a good spot. I've learned how to tweet a little bit. You can send me a tweet, and then I can learn more. That'll be useful.
Yep. But you leave comment suggestions, everything. Hate comments.
Body shaming comments.
Ooh, man. Only if they're directed at us, though.
Yeah, specifically at us.
We are not cultivating a culture of Reddit culture on our community here.
You can just join me in shaming Nietzsche.
Yeah, recruitments. That's what you need. That's exactly what you need. Well, I feel like that's enough nonsense.
If that's not enough nonsense for you, we're going to need you to go out, go to your secret crush, tell them all about the show, use that as an opportunity to grow closer. And, if you actually have feelings for this person, don't play some weird games where you're trying to trick them into confessing to you. It's probably not going to be too useful.
Well, now that is enough nonsense, okay? And now that everybody's going to be telling their secret crush. We're going to be forming relationships for these people.
You have to name your kid after us, though.
That sounds creepy. Please don't do that. Like, we don't need more Joshes in the world, one. That is too popular. And if you name it after me, that's complicated and annoying. And I like the uniqueness of my name, and you're not going to ruin that. But if you form your relationship because you guys bonded over us, we need to know that. That's real important. We will celebrate. Be very happy with you. But right now, we're going to get to the scores here. What are you giving this?
A 7.
I'm giving this a 5 out of 10.
Have at us.